Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where today we are doing the album review of Silent Planet's Superbloom. So, for those of you that don't know who Silent Planet is, they are a American metalcore band formed in California around 2009, and according to my research, their name is derived from author C.S. Lewis, who had a sci-fi novel out of a sci-fi novel called Out of the Silent Planet. The group consists of Garrett Russell on vocals, Alex, I may pronounce this wrong, Camarena on drums, and Nick Pocock on bass. Currently, the lads are signed to Solid State Records and have graced us with 5 full studio albums. So, their discography consists of The Night God Slept in 2014, Everything Was Sound in 2016, When the End Began in 2018, Iridescent in 2021, and Superbloom in 2023. So as well as this, they have released 2 EPs, which I found listed as 2012, Come Wind, Come Weather, and in 2014 they released Last Sleep, 1944 to 1946, along with a litany of singles and features and things of that nature and such. So, Superbloom. So in 2023, this album landed at 2nd place on my end of year list, even though it only dropped in very early November. November the 3rd to be exact. Even though I originally state in my top 10 or top 5 best of whatever that I thought it came out in October, I was wrong. One of the singles did in October, but not the full album. The 4 singles from the album were Signal, Antimatter, Collider, and Anunnaki. I'm going to pronounce that wrong every time. The critical reception was solid, seeing a 9 out of 10 by Distorted Sound, a 4 out of 5 stars by Kerrang, and an 8 out of 10 by Metal Injection, and so on and so forth. The album is 12 tracks long and runs for just shy of 40 minutes. And finally, in an interview with Kerrang, Garrett, the vocalist, explained this about the album, and I quote, "I found myself writing about our transformation as a band and as people, and what it means to go from one state to another. On Superbloom, we do that via this story of someone encountering an alien biologic and how it enters their system and changes them from the inside." He then goes on to say he doesn't see this as a fictional story because of the course of them writing the album. The possibility of extra or ultra-terrestrial life forms has become a more common topic of public discourse nowadays. So yeah, interesting and complex shit right there. And there is another point in this review where I will be going onto my phone here, because I have quotes from the same interview which pertain to something that inspired one of the album songs on the album. So track 1, Lights Off the Lost Coast, is just over a minute long, and the album starts with this ambient track of buzzing and then a whoomp 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 sort of droning sound that builds up into a quiet static voice that you can't quite make out everything of, before we go straight into track 2, Offworlder, which is 3 minutes and 23 seconds. The story starts almost immediately, which obviously I can't give all of it in an in-depth format, but verse 1 is clearly from this extraterrestrial biologic's point of view, with lines like, "There's no time left to waste. Now that you're finally awake, you took a lifetime to deprogram, so let's cut to the chase." And then goes on to talk of people breaching the door, which I assume is some sort of reference to a police force or some sort of Men in Black like entity, Um, and this obviously comes before the chorus, which is an absolute banger of bullets ricochet under the gun, reaching for the blade, passing through the walls, bring the steel, silencing them all. The vocals throughout this are crisp and legible, whilst being backed up by phenomenal guitar work and some stellar drums too. Track 3, Collider. 3 minutes and 41 seconds. We get a 25-second build here into some slow cleans. For the heavier pre-chorus into another stellar catchy chorus. This time it's a clean song. We stare through the night at bleeding satellites. The past is an open wound. The moon won't forget the promises we left. Does the silence accuse you too? The lines, the past is an open wound, and does the silence accuse you too, especially the last line there, kind of hits home, as I'm sure it can for many people. Like, when a restless mind is left in silence, you tend to overthink, jump to conclusions, revisit like past conversations, things you could have said better to people, things you should have done differently and stuff like that, which is definitely what these two lines seem to kind of like give the vibes of as well. Track 4 is called Euphoria and is about 3 minutes and 39 seconds, and this song starts slow in the intro, but verse 1 has a fast, frantic pacing that runs into a shorter chorus sung by a feature which I forgot to list, by Alejandro Aranda, who has this soft, airy voice, which is a stark contrast to Garrett's vocals on this track and the fast guitars and drums that are in their sections too. Track 5, we see the track Dreamwalker, which is one of the longer ones on the album, of 4 minutes and 9 seconds. And this song, Garrett said, much like Antimatter, is inspired by a horrifying van crash the band experienced in 2022. Coincidentally, from my research, the album was released on November the 3rd, which is actually the 1-year anniversary of the crash. The song is said to be an extension of what they shared in the wreckage when they were helping him stem the bleeding of his head wound whilst he was dealing with the after effects or the effects of a concussion. And from what I've read, is a way of showing where your mind can go in a situation such as a very sudden van crash, that it kind of like can disconnect itself from what's going on and try to forget the aftermath and everything. With this, we see lines like, bleed out the future, swept away by the stars, bleed out the future, emptying the paradox. That's the chorus of what is a very hard-hitting track that never really relents once it starts, especially once you know the backstory. So going into track 6, I am going to switch here and read off of my phone a minute. So this is what Garrett has said about the crash that inspired some of the songs on this album and most of the album, therefore. At approximately 5 a.m. on November the 3rd, we were westbound on the I-80 through Wyoming when our driver hit a patch of black ice, causing him to lose control of our vehicle, explains singer Garrett Russell. Asleep in our bunks, we woke to the sound of our friends screaming as we felt the van start to tilt. We braced together as we spun off the road, the van falling on its side, then sliding down a nearby embankment until we eventually flipped up onto the roof. I was thrown across the vehicle and briefly knocked out. I remember waking to find my bandmates all miraculously safe in their bunks. This song is an extension of this experience we shared whilst huddled in the wreckage together. My friends helping me to stem the bleeding of my head wound. He continues, temporarily I was under the effects of a concussion. Strange visual distortions began to form, inspiring many of the themes of this song and another. The fragility of life, the way we make sense of it all, and wondering what awaits us on the other side. whilst this track is part of a larger story of the upcoming concept album, this one was specifically inspired by this moment and the moments inside of that moment when I entered this timeless space. This song is our response to the greater Silent Planet community who donated to help us stay on the road and continue to believe our projects. So, yeah, this song is a banger, with groovy instrumentals paired with distorted, clean vocals and barking screams? Oh, backing screams. Couldn't even read my own writing there. Until the beautiful chorus, which is much longer than others so far on this album. The bridge is where you really notice the ties into the quotes from the prior statement I read. Waiting in the wreckage for the sun to rise, I'm staring at fractures no one else can see, they're so complete. When morning comes, will there be anyone left to find? My vision starts to surrender as colours subvert the night. Like, it really tends to paint a picture that puts you in the situation that the guys are trying to describe, I guess. Yeah. Moving on, we have track 7, which is Signal. Runs at 3.5 minutes. The drums at the beginning are great. The guitars also stand out very well too, as the vocals are more kind of laid out, and they tend to have like vocal pause instrumental section, vocals pause instrumental section, and they kind of give like each bit its own time to breathe and showcase what they're doing, which is kind of different off of the rest of the tracks, where some have like a very fast pace, some will have a slower pace. This one has a very methodical, thought out pace to it. Yeah. Moving on to track 8, we have, again, I'm going to butcher this name, I believe it's Anunnaki, and it's just over 3 minutes. So this is another song with a fast, frantic pace, with great vocals crushing the track, backed up by slamming drums and great guitar work. The bridge is also great, with these spoken word parts into heavier vocals before the outro. Like, the heaviness really kicks in just before the song finishes. Track 9, we go on to see a song called The Overgrowth, which again is 3 minutes and 2 seconds, just like the last song. We start with some drums and like this bass line that guides the drum work before the vocals kick in, with a sort of delivery, with a soft delivery, sorry, before the final part picks up into a heavy section again to wrap it all up. Track 10, we see a song called Nexus, which is literally just shy of 4 minutes long, and this song is really a fast-paced ride from the first verse or so, and the chorus here is yet another shorter one, like only four or so lines. Starving in circles, perpetual state of possession, shatter the cycle, release control as many become one. And apparently the many become one line is a nod to a movie called The Arrival, which sees a translator talking to extraterrestrial life forms, and in their last session he says, "There is no time, many become one." So yeah, it's an interesting little bit of trivia for you. Fuck me, I cannot talk today. Track 11, we see Re-Entry, which is 0.46 seconds long, or 46 seconds if you're a normal person. This is another atmospheric instrumental which feeds seamlessly into track 12, Superbloom, 5 minutes and 2 seconds. The longest song on the album here, also the title track, the closing track. So we're wrapping up. It's mainly a clean sung song, or clean sung song start, sorry, before and like you get the guitars guiding the ear through the song's smooth soundscape until about the 3 minute mark, where it all kind of picks up into this big crescendo of sorts as the vocals that give off, the only way I could describe it is the Devil Wears Prada vibes. Like it starts off as like this almost clean sung harshness, but then goes into almost like a mid fry, and we get that until the album just fades out to a finish and is over. So my final thoughts: even being 12 tracks and a near 40-minute runtime, you easily can get lost in the sounds and the story and just the great instrumentation and the musicianship on display on this album, to the point where you're left almost wishing there was like a few extra tracks. Like if it had been 15 tracks, it would have been slightly longer, more to delve into, but then you still probably wouldn't have had enough, because the way that they have crafted this album is just so damn good. But like I say, you know what they say, keep them wanting more. And by fucking God did that work. I do want more. I cannot wait to see what Silent Planet have got in plan for their next album, if it's going to be a continuation of the story of Superbloom, if it's going to be something entirely different. Like I said, I'm excited to go back and listen to some of their older stuff to see how they've grown as a band as well. You know, this came in second place for a reason. It's easily a fucking 10 out of 10 album. Like, the guitars are fantastic, the vocals are fantastic, the drum work is great, the bass, when it gets to be showcased, is superb. Like, there is not a single thing out of place. Even the one thing I generally detest on albums, ambient filler instrumental tracks, have a place on this because of the Extraterrestrial vibes. It definitely helps build that eeriness and like the sort of foreboding feeling in your gut that you would have if you heard like this whirring sound and look at a spaceship coming down or whatever the fuck, you know. With that being said, there's only one thing left to do: top 4 tracks. This was super difficult, but in number 1 we have Superbloom. It's just a fantastic track, honestly. 2, we have Offworlder, because it's just such a good song. Track 3 is Collider, because of the chorus mainly. And track 4, or spot 4, I couldn't choose between Euphoria and Antimatter, because they are both so good. Easily, I could just say, it doesn't matter what song you listen to on this album, just listen to the album. It is that good. Yeah, I definitely cannot praise the album enough. It's up there with some of my favourites. Like I said, I'm definitely excited to see what the guys have in store in the future. So with that being said, we are done here. I will see you in a few weeks on the next video, which will be a Let Us Discuss video, where we talk about soundtracks, original soundtracks, and CDs that used to be out called Music Froms and Inspired Bys, and we look at if they were a cool thing, just a cash grab, or if they should be, you know, still around. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you for sitting throughout this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Let me know in the comments below if there's something you would like me to review or hear my thoughts on in the like metal, rock, hip hop scene sort of thing. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, and remember to stay safe out there, my friends.